Part 35. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 341. Chapter 341. And Ran took the fatal blow for him. Pattering, pattering, crackling. The sky that was originally cloudy was suddenly covered with dark clouds, and the light rain quickly turned into heavy rain. A human body was lying on the ground, his face was covered in red blood, and his clothes were in tatters. Wang Hu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and took out his mobile phone to play the sound. I know you have a grudge against Bei yet. I can tell you right now that he will appear at the racing track this afternoon. Then you will bring someone to deal with him and warn him not to pester me. The recording played on the mobile phone is the voice of the calm and unique girl that Kitano dreams about every day. But the words she spoke were like a sharp sword piercing his heart. This money is to reward you. As long as he agrees to give up, I don't care about the rest. There will be a reward after the event is completed. Of course, don't be too harsh. After all, he is also my ex. Wang Hu played the entire recording, put it away, and laughed sinisterly. He deliberately squatted down, held up the phone in front of Kitano and shook it. Did you hear that? Kitano. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha, B suddenly laughed loudly, with blood flowing from his mouth. Wang Hu also laughed, but slowly and mockingly. You protected that woman when school started, but in the end, you were tricked by her. It turns out that you and Ran accidentally met Wang Hu and others on the first day of school, and Kitano protected her from leaving at that time. A poor boy must be self-aware. What is your identity? The toad wants to eat swan meat. Dream on. Meeting again and again, Kitano fell in love with him, and he never recovered. Wang Hu deliberately played those recordings in his ears. B suddenly bared his teeth and grabbed Wang Hu's cell phone with fierce eyes. Wang Hu couldn't get rid of it with such strength. Wang Hu pulled with all his strength, but Kitano just wouldn't let go. Wang Hu stood up and kicked him on the head mercilessly. Kitano's head hit the ground, his eyes flashed, and he fainted. Wang Hu spat on the ground disdainfully. Bah! He bent down to take his mobile phone back from B's hand, but found that B was holding on tightly and he couldn't pull it out. Wang Hu glanced at it unwillingly. Whatever you look at, turn your head. His miserable appearance was like a laughingstock to his brothers. Those gangsters suppressed laughter and turned their heads. Wang Hu continued to pull the phone and tried to pull Kitano's fingers, but found that he couldn't pull it off no matter what. B, why are you pretending to be dead? Wang Hu was furious, thinking that B was pretending to be dead on purpose, so he picked up a thick stick next to him and swung it at his body. Stop! Boom! A sharp girl's sound overlapped with the loud sound of a stick being struck, and Wang Hu hit you and ran the body with a stick that used 7 points of strength. At that moment, the raindrops in the sky fell even harder. It seems like the sky is crying for them. What the hell? Suddenly a woman appeared and frightened Wang Hu. He threw the stick and stood aside. He opened his eyes wide and took a look. He was so frightened that his legs went weak and he knelt on the ground. This is the real eldest daughter of the Yu family, Yuan Ran herself. Yuan Ran, who had never experienced gravity before, received a heavy blow. At that time, he was so weak that he almost fainted. However, he still used his last bit of reason to grab Wang Hu's trouser leg and said, "Save him, save him." The team of the Yu family all rushed over. MRSU's confidant, assistant son, was so frightened that she said, "Quickly, send the lady to the hospital." "What should I do with this person?" "Take the lady away, no matter whether the others live or die." End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 342. Chapter 342. How dare you hurt my daughter? The Yu family's team took away the unconscious Yuan Ran and Wang Hu, and the other younger brothers fled in fear. It was raining heavily outside the eaves, and B lay quietly on the cold ground, like a corpse. Until a slender figure holding an umbrella passed by and noticed that something unusual was here. The girl ran in holding an umbrella. When she saw the fainted person on the ground, she shouted the name Baya in surprise. Yuan Ran was sent to the hospital for examination. At this moment, Wang Hu was so frightened that he wet his buttocks. He knelt on the ground and kept begging, "Assistant son, the lady came here by herself. I didn't know." Although he is bold outside, in today's society, money is king. Wang Hu has no money. Compared with the Yu family, he is like an ant bumping into an elephant. Wang Hu was extremely frightened. Although Yuan Ran rushed over by himself, he hit Yuan Ran with the solid blow with his own hands. If anything happened to Yuan Ran, the Yu family would definitely kill him. Wang Hu was in such a panic that he had no idea and only knew how to shift the responsibility to others. Thinking that the Yu family looked down on Baya, he simply put the blame on Baya. "Assistant son, if you want to blame Baya, blame that boy, he was the one who lured the lady here." "Trash!" Assistant son immediately raised his hand and slapped Wang Hu. "When the lady wakes up, I will naturally settle the score with you." When Wang Hu heard this, he sat down on the ground again. This time he couldn't even get up. Baya is the person Yuan Ran likes. The reason why he dares to deal with Baya like that is because the Yu family sent assistant son to give him orders. If something happens to be alone, the Yu family will protect him. But if something happens to Miss Yu's family, the Yus will only arrest her and hang her. Wang Hu hurriedly took out his cell phone and asked the brothers wandering outside to inquire about B. It felt good to vent for a while, but now he just wanted to save his own life. "I pray that both Baya and Yuan Ran will be safe. Also, I'm warning you, delete everything on your phone." Yes, I will delete it right away." Wang Hu understood instantly and deleted the recording file on his phone in front of assistant son. Because those recordings were not of Yuan Ran at all, but they deliberately found someone who could imitate the voice to speak. He just deliberately waited for B to listen to it when his mind was not clear and could no longer distinguish between true and false. Unexpectedly, B was really angry to death. The more Wang Hu thought about it, the more he regretted it. He is afraid that he will not be able to enjoy the money he earns. At this moment, a lady hurried to the hospital, and the sound of high heels was loud in the corridor. It was MRSU who came over with a blank expression, holding the cat with blue eyes. Assistant son lowered his posture just to welcome MRSU. "Madam, the lady is in stable condition now, she just needs some time to wake up." MRSU nodded to indicate that she understood the situation. She then asked, "Who did it?" Wang Hu kept shaking his head at assistant son, but assistant son pointed at Wang Hu without mercy. "That's him." Bang! MRSU raised her foot and kicked Wang Hu directly. The sharp high heels hurt Wang Hu, and he rolled around on the ground in pain. "Who gave you the courage to hurt my daughter?" Wang Hu rolled around on the ground and knelt down. "MRSU, this incident is really an accident. If you want to blame it on Baya, who is a disaster. The young lady was injured because of him." "Where is Kitano?" "Madam, I'm afraid, his life is in danger. MRSU still loves and Ran very much, but her love is a bit extreme. She has been hurt and ruined most of her life. She doesn't want her daughter to follow her old path." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 343. Chapter 343 MRSU's Inner Monologue. La 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 la. The rain in S City became even heavier. Kitano, who was rescued, was also lying in the hospital with bruises and almost breathed his last. Yuan Ran developed a high fever that night when he was sent to the hospital and fell unconscious. MRSU gave up a big business and stayed in Yuan Ran's ward in person, holding the blue-eyed cat in her arms. The cat looked at its little master on the hospital bed with its blue eyes like the ocean and stars, just like its big master, expecting Yuan Ran to wake up. Yuan Ran has never suffered much since she was a child. The only thing that can be considered suffering is that after making a mistake, MRSU would only ask her to kneel in the study. Yuan Ran couldn't bear this kind of real heavy blow to the body. Coupled with the continuous rain, various factors mixed together, seriously disturbing Yuan Ran's body. After so many years, it was the first time that MRSU looked at her daughter so quietly and carefully. At that time, it was because of her pursuit of so-called love that she abandoned her status as a wealthy young lady to follow a poor man. She turned a blind eye to her parents' obstruction and intentions, and was completely carried away by love. She thought she was married for love, but after she became pregnant, the heartless man naturally helped him manage the company and coveted her family's property with his mistress. If it weren't for the help of the loyal secretary left behind by her father, assistant son's father, the Neu family would have been almost destroyed in her hands. So, no matter what, she will not allow tragedy to happen again. Even if you hate me now, one day you will be grateful to your mother. She was the one who forced Yuan Ran to stay with her in the first place. Her own daughter, even if she bleeds with half the blood of the treacherous man, is but a piece of flesh that has fallen from her body. It's just that she had to support a huge family for so many years, and she never thought of finding another person to rely on. Yuan Ran is her only daughter, and it is impossible for her to raise Yuan Ran to be a carefree little princess. So she has always been a strict mother, arranging everything for Yuan Ran and letting her take the right path. Yuan Ran was sick and had to take leave. The only thing Ye was worried about was her. A call came to Yuan Ran's cell phone, and MRSU answered it. The only person Ye showed her identity was, to her surprise, MRSU gave the hospital address. Ye Weiwei was flattered, but he didn't know that MRSU had known about Ye Weiwei's relationship with the Ye family a long time ago. Even though the adoptive mother is not happy, the people in charge of the Ye family are father and son Ye Hantian and Ye Zikan. As far as she knows, both father and son love their adopted daughter very much. There is no harm in Yuan Ran's friendship with Ye Yi. The only time he came to visit her was that MRSU was leaning next to her, as if she hadn't slept all night, and the circles under her eyes were somewhat obvious. The night before, I had always thought that MRSU was a very strict mother, but now it seems that she is not. Hello, Aunt, I am An Ran's friend, Xiaoling. Hello. The answer is very formulaic and makes people confused. The nurse just came to take the temperature, and Yuan Ran's fever has gone down. Assistant Sun came in and invited MRSU to have a meal. MRSU shook her head and said she couldn't eat. Assistant Sun has been with MRSU for many years, so he naturally understands her thoughts. Madam, you have to take the overall situation into consideration. That's right, MRSU is the backbone of the entire Yu family. MRSU was persuaded to leave by Assistant Sun. Ye Weiwei stood next to Yuan Ran and sighed. At this moment, Yuan Ran suddenly opened his eyes and looked very awake. She's gone, isn't she? End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 344. Chapter 344. An Ran's hand is broken. An Ran, are you awake? Xiao Li, help me, find Bei Ya. Yuan Ran spoke a little excitedly, coughed twice in a row, and his face was still flushed from the fever. Okay, I'll help you find Bei Ya. I was busy trying to calm her down. She didn't even know what happened to Yuan Ran now. Tell me first, what happened to you? Bei Ya was blocked by someone, and when I rushed over, it was already too late. I blocked the blow for him and fainted. I don't know what happened next. My mother was beside me, and I didn't dare to wake up. I didn't know what to do. Xiaoling, you must help me. Yuan Ran's personality is difficult to ask for help, but because of B, she asked Ye for the only few times. She knows that Ye Yuyi has a backer and knows that Ye Yuyi has this ability. The only person she can trust is Ye Yiwei. Ye Wei frowned after hearing this. I'll go find him. Thanks. Anran, take good care of your health. Once there is any news about B, I will tell you as soon as possible. And the most important thing for you is to take care of yourself. I know, thank you very much. Ye Wei shook his head and waved goodbye to her. After Ye Wei went out, Yuan Ran looked at the infusion needle still stuck on the back of his hand. She put her right hand that was receiving the infusion on the bedside and tried to sit up with her left hand, but found that she couldn't exert the strength no matter what. Yuan Ran's expression changed, and she wanted to raise her left hand, but it would hurt like a broken bone if she exerted any force. A bad feeling arose in her heart, her hand. Suddenly there was a feeling of emptiness in her heart, which made her feel flustered for no reason. Ye only had the address of B, which was a narrow alley filled with old houses. But there is also an advantage. She can just ask downstairs and someone will give her directions. Ye Ziwei successfully found Bei Ye's home, but no one answered the knock on the door. The man next door went out for a walk with his dog. He saw a pretty girl standing there with an onto smile and said, "The handsome guy next door is not at home, so stop knocking." "Grandpa, do you know where he went?" "I don't know, that young man is quite nice, but a little wild." Ye Wei nodded politely in thanks. She came here and heard everyone's comments about Kitano being a handsome guy and a nice guy, but a little wild. It seems that Kitano can do more than just fight or cause trouble. The neighbors like him quite a lot. But the only thing I came here for was not for Hall Kitano's deeds, but to find someone. But after asking everyone around, Beiye has not been back for several days. Someone provided Yayuyi with a bar address, which was the place Kitano often went to. Ye Wei went to the bar to look for someone according to the address. When she saw the bar, which was not very large, she asked a few questions directly at the door. This bar is small and does not have strict rules like the night bar. Ye Wei asked Beiye, and the gatekeeper could answer a few words. "Brother Bei is not here, he didn't come today." Of course she knows Kitano is not here. According to Yuan Ran's description, B should be seriously injured. She had searched the racing track and no one knew about it, and she had also asked around here. It seemed that none of these people knew that something had happened to B. It seems that all the clues have been lost. But she did not receive any bad news. What she was sure of was that B must have been rescued. The hotel manager saw a beautiful girl standing in front of his bar. Her dress was incompatible with the place. "What's going on with this little beauty?" "Oh, I'm here to see Brother Bei. I feel sorry for my little beauty in Ran, and I'm asking for a wave of recommendation votes, comments, and rewards Kaibao people can wish for in Ran's hand to be restored." End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 345. Chapter 345. Kitano is still lying in the hospital. The supervisor suddenly stopped. "Ye Wei, little beauty, look for Beiye, do you know him?" "I am his friend. He has been acting strangely at school recently, and I am a little worried." Yayoi almost said that she was his girlfriend's friend, but thinking about hearing Kitano's brother criticize Yuan Ran at school before, she learned to be cautious. The supervisor looked at her well-behaved student outfit and asked her, "What evidence do you have?" "I am his schoolmate." Ye Wei took out his student ID card. The supervisor looked at them and confirmed that they were from the same school. The only thing Ye noticed was that she was best at pretending to be innocent. "Brother, do you know where Kitano is? He is about to take the college entrance examination, and we are all worried." The supervisor was moved by her pure eyes and sighed, "Come with me." Yayoi was taken to a not-so-high-end hospital. And Kitano is now lying in the hospital, unconscious. Look, he is lying in it. How is this going? If you fight with someone, you won't die, but it's close. Does it mean that Kitano's condition is very dangerous? Transfer him to another hospital immediately. Transfer to another hospital is easy to say. The cost of a big hospital is thousands or tens of thousands a day. We don't have that much money. Every family has its own difficulties. He should take care of his brothers as well as his family. The incomes here are generally not very high and they can only maintain an ordinary life. Going to a big hospital or something like that is really too luxurious. Money is not a problem, I will help him out. Contact the doctor quickly to transfer him to another hospital. Yayoi attitude suddenly became firm. When the supervisor heard what she said, his eyes immediately changed when he looked at her. Ask sharply, "Do you like Kitano?" What? Yayoi was confused by an inexplicable question. The supervisor laughed. If a little girl is so nervous and a handsome guy is so nervous, she will most likely like her. Yayoi waved his hand quickly. No, you misunderstood, I just treat him as a friend. Whether you admit it or deny it, in short, rich ladies like you, don't get close to him, otherwise he will have 9 lives to answer for. Although the supervisor used a relaxed tone, the last sentence made people clearly feel that the supervisor was putting pressure. Seems to be very dissatisfied with children from rich families like them. Yes, only guess is because of Yuan Ran. She did not dare to involve Yuan Ran at this moment. I think you misunderstood. I have someone I like, and it's not Bei yet. I don't have time to explain now. Human life is always at stake. Yayoi suppressed his ignorance and simplicity and became serious. It makes people feel that every word she says is true. The supervisor was surprised by the change in Yayoi's image now and before, and was finally convinced and decided to transfer to another hospital. Let's say it first, this is yours, we don't have the money to pay it back to you. Of course, don't worry. Arrangements were made for B to be transferred to another hospital. Yayoi did not dare to tell Yuan Ran that B was still awake. He only said that he was injured on the surface of the skin and had woken up and needed more rest. Yayoi took advantage of B's unconsciousness to take a photo and sent it to Yuan Ran to express that he had indeed found the person. Yazi took care of the expenses-related matters, and when he went to Kitano's ward, he saw a strange girl guarding there. Yayoi winked at the supervisor. Who is this? Her name is Yi Sueo, she is also from our area. She was the one who saved B's life. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 346. Chapter 346, maybe he will become a useless person. This is the 3rd time Yuan Ran has broken a cup. She still clearly remembers what the doctor said in front of her. MSU's hand suffered a violent impact that caused the bones to dislocate. Even if she recovers well, I'm afraid she won't be able to use gravity in the future. My hand is useless, right? The doctor used professional terms to give Yuan Ran tactful hints, but Yuan Ran already fully understood what the doctor meant. She smiled and passed by, and after sending the doctor to finish the examination and leave, she cast her eyes on MRSU. Mother, how much value does a Miss Yu who has lost her hand have to you? MRSU's face froze. She raised her posture as a noble lady outside, and said to her daughter like an order, Yuan Ran. I won't allow you to be so depressed. You must cooperate with the doctor's instructions and recover as soon as possible. Here we go again. This is another order from superiors to subordinates. Growing up, she was probably a thorn in her mother's heart, but she couldn't remove that thorn. Yuan Ran is Yuan Ran. Even if he knows that his hand is broken, he will not cry without any image. There is a bit of indifference on his face, and there is no trace of warmth in his eyes. That's right. I am the only daughter you have. I am quite valuable to you. After hearing this, Yuan Ran shook her head and muttered to herself, not knowing what she was talking about. Mrsu stared at a gloomy face. Her tone was not necessarily gentle, but always so stern. Yuan Ran, you'd better get rid of those messy thoughts. Yuan Ran closed her eyes and didn't want to argue anymore. Mom, I'm very tired. I want to rest. Wait a minute, what are you going to do with the person who hurt you? Mother should have already planned it, right? Of course, I will first. Mrsu felt angry when she thought of Wang Hu. She almost said her heart out loud with a cold smile. Meeting Yuan Ran's burning eyes, Mrsu suddenly stopped her voice. So why do you need to ask me, Mother? You can just solve it. Anyway, Yuan Ran knew that Mrsu was used to being independent, and the so-called asking was just a word. Mrsu grunted and left the room, but left her pet cat beside Yuan Ran. Yuan Ran may not like small animals that much, but she definitely likes this cat. Cat, am I so timid that I dare not even ask? Knowing that Kitano's incident was related to her mother, she could only avoid it. She couldn't resist her mother. Dong dong dong. Come in. Ye Wei walked in and closed the door gently, and ran, I'm here to see you. She didn't bring anything with her, but Yuan Ran was most happy to see her. Xiaoling, have you seen him? How is he? Ye Wei said half-truthfully, don't worry, it's fine. It's just a skin injury that needs to be taken care of. It's okay, Yuan Ran laughed dumbly. Ye Wei stood on the invisible ground and sighed. Later, Bi really woke up, but the doctor said that he had saved his life and the injury was serious. By the way, Anran, do you want me to help you carry messages or something? Don't want. Ye Wei was retorted as soon as he finished speaking. Yuan Ran seemed a little excited. Don't tell him, don't say anything to him. Why are you lying in the hospital because of him? Tell him and he won't give up. She can never get close to Bi again, otherwise she may make a worse mistake next time. Ye Wei sighed, okay, I will convey the news in time. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 347. Chapter 347 She is the rich lady. Ye Wei complained to Yezikin on the phone about many unhappy things recently. When Yezikin heard the name Beye, his hand that was typing on the keyboard paused, and a faint light flashed in his eyes. Is it true, Beye was seriously injured? I don't know why, but those people were so cruel. In the end, Ran blocked the blow for him, otherwise it would really be a crime that would cost him most of his life. And the people of the Yu family are really outrageous. They took and ran away but didn't care about Beye's life or death. Even if you want to separate them, you don't have to risk your life. After all, Yes' only idea of retaliating against others is to make them suffer the consequences. The most serious thing is to lose face, but it never involves human life. When she saw Beye wrapped in gauze, she was frightened. What about your friends and Kitano now? Anran is recuperating in the hospital now. There shouldn't be any big problems because Ye Wei didn't see Anran for a long time. She hadn't noticed anything wrong with Anran's hand, yet. Beye is in a worse situation. He has woken up, but I don't know how long it will take for him to recover. I don't know what he will do in the college entrance examination. There are still 10 days left for the college entrance examination, and 100 days of muscle and bone injuries, which is not even enough for him to recover. Brother, I have been helping the two of them recently, but I told a little lie. Anran said that he could not tell Beye, and I couldn't tell Anran everything about Beye's situation, for fear that she would worry. You said is it right to do this? Well, Little Belle is very smart and has learned to help others. Hearing you say that makes me feel at ease. Someone affirmed her actions, and it was Yezikin who affirmed her, which made the knot in her heart disappear instantly. Then, she heard Yezikin say that he would go back to S City soon. Yayiwei is extremely happy. Yaziwei was entrusted by Yuan Ran and went to the hospital to visit Kitano almost every day. Beiya hadn't said a word since he woke up. The bar manager kept talking, and finally scolded Yuan Ran in front of Beiya. Beiya's eyes were unpredictable and he still didn't speak. But Ye Wei couldn't help but speak for Yuan Ran, and almost exposed his secret. And Ran is a classmate in our class, she is very nice. That's because you are kind-hearted and think others are good, but the little girl is just too simple. Because Ye Wei paid to save B, the supervisor's affection for her gradually increased. Seeing that Ye Wei came to visit B every day, he felt that this little girl was sincere and never acted like a young lady. For example, she is a wealthy lady, and so are you, but she always puts on a bad face when meeting everyone, but you can laugh and worry at the same time. This is the difference between people. Ayn Rand is just not good at showing her emotions. You don't understand her. Forget it, I won't argue, that woman is a disaster anyway, I'll scold her every time I see her. Ye Wei clenched her fists and endured it again and again. At this time, a young girl pushed the door open with a thermos bucket. What are you talking about? I made some food, but it is relatively light. If you don't mind, come and try it. She was wearing a simple white chiffon top and shorts, and looked like an ordinary young girl. She is Yi Sueo. Hello to each other, I felt uncomfortable all over. Judging from her ability to recognize people, Yi Sueo is not like Li Moer who pretends to be kind but makes people feel inexplicably in danger. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 348. Chapter 348 He needs a loyal wolf. While Beiya was lying in the hospital for 5 days, he thought he was an uninvited guest in the ward, and it was Yezikin. Yezikin came alone and happened to miss the time of the others. Beiya, long time no see. He stood condescendingly beside the hospital bed, looking noble and natural. Beiya remained silent but stared at Yezikin closely. Yezikin confirmed that he was awake now, stood elegantly by the bed, and put forward the purpose of his trip straight to the point. What do you think about the deal I told you last time? You go. A weak but firm voice sounded in the ward. This was the first thing Kitano said since he was injured and lying in the hospital. Yezikin chuckled, you don't want to agree. I don't need it. B turned over and faced away. Yezikin still maintained the same standing posture as when he came in. The expression on his face and the look in his eyes had not changed. He said to Kitano, the college entrance examination is coming soon, but I personally don't think the college entrance examination is the best way out for you. B treated him indifferently, it has nothing to do with you. Yezikin nodded, okay. That's it for now, it's useless to say more. Yezikin is good at dealing with people, and he also knows how to guess people's hearts. He walked around the head of the bed to face Beiya, leaving a card in front of him, showing a mysterious smile. People always learn to regret after experiencing enough lessons. He will not hold a grudge if he is rejected, nor will he feel that Kitano is disrespectful. If you want a wild wolf to surrender, you always need a certain amount of patience and ability. He wants a loyal wolf, and it doesn't matter if he spends more time and capital many times. As long as he achieves his goal in the end, he is the winner. Yezikin comes without a sound, and no one knows when he leaves. Except for Yi Sueo, who just walked over, she couldn't help but look back a few more times when she passed by Yezikin. Because that man has an attractive physique. She didn't see her face, but judging from the aura when she walked, she must be pretty, right? Yi Sueo pushed the door open and went in. She saw that B had opened his eyes, and she smiled a little. B, are you awake? I brought you rice porridge. Baya didn't answer, and she was used to it. She took a bowl of porridge and brought it to Kitano. Suddenly she saw something like a card in front of B. Yisueo reached out to take it, but B was faster than her. What is that? My stuff. Yisueo was so choked by his words that she couldn't answer the next one. However, Yisueo had a good temper and pretended not to care, and brought the rice porridge to him again. B's resilience is really strong. Perhaps he carried it hard and did not allow himself to be weak. He had to sit up and eat by himself. Although he was usually indifferent to people, he would also say coldly, "Thank you" to anyone who helped him. Yisueo shook her head. "It's okay, we are all old friends." Yisueo no longer went to school, but was working outside. She couldn't stay with B for long and left with the thermos bucket. Before leaving, he also told him to take good care of his health. "I'll see you again after get off work." Baya frowned slightly. He is not used to strangers being nice to him, but now he is almost useless and has to rely on them. By some strange coincidence, B took out the card left by Yezikin and still remembered the 3 words Yezikin told him when he left, 6 zeros. Kitano tightened his hold on this card. He was sure that there was a lot of money in it. Finished. Here are 10,000 words about Brother Chen and Brother Bei. Does anyone want to read it? Covering face in shame. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 349. Chapter 349. I am willing to ache for you. Countdown to the college entrance examination, 0 days. Yuan Ran waited until the nurse changed the dressing on her left hand as instructed, then pushed everyone away and sneaked out of the hospital. She took a taxi as soon as she left the hospital and gave her name to the school. Little girl, are you going to take the college entrance examination? I'm afraid you won't be able to make it now. No, I just want to see my boyfriend in Yuan Ran's heart. They never broke up. Haha, you young people really have endless good years of youth. There is nothing terrible about falling in love early. As long as you study hard, you might be able to get into the same university in the future unexpectedly. The uncle driver was open-minded and talkative, and he was very different from the taciturn Yu. Enron is in stark contrast. But even some blessings from strangers were sweet to Yuan Ran's ears and remembered in her heart. It's like they have never been separated. Actually, she didn't even know whether Kitano would take the college entrance examination. Ye Wei had helped her to make insinuations before, but B refused to express his position, and kept his mouth tightly shut, so that he didn't reveal anything to anyone. So today, she couldn't help but want to go and look for it on site. She knows B's examination room and location. Always keep it in mind. Today is the college entrance examination. Uniformed policemen guard the gates of major schools. They also divide areas to separate parents and others. There is a road in the middle for candidates to enter. No traffic is allowed far around. Because classrooms must be vacated for the college entrance examination, other grades have a 7-day holiday. Only the senior high school students who took the college entrance examination today entered the school. Yuan Ran had enough time to go and sneaked in with the other students. She did not check the examination room layout in advance, she only liked to search slowly. Time is tight, and other candidates have basically passed the inspection and entered the classroom. Yuan Ran looked at the map distribution and found the examination room in B. She stood by the window and looked around, and the teacher at the door called her. Yuan Ran didn't care. He quickly calculated B's seat in his mind, but that seat was empty. Baya didn't come. Yuan Ran had this realization in his heart, his heart beat faster and he felt extremely uneasy. The college entrance examination is an important turning point in life for a person without a family background. If Kitano misses it because of her, she will regret it for the rest of her life. The teacher at the door was already coming over. Yuan Ran made some nonsense and said that she was in the wrong examination room, so the teacher let her go. With classrooms on all sides, it was unrealistic for her to stay here and wait for Kitano. However, there is a time limit for the college entrance examination. The exam is not allowed within the first 15 minutes. Although the time is tight, Yuan Ran is more willing to believe that Kitano is just late. She exited the open area and hid behind a large pillar. At this time, almost all the candidates have entered the examination room. If anyone comes, they can easily be seen. As time passed by, Yuan Ran became more and more nervous. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. 12 minutes. Yuan Ran clenched her hands tightly, sweating. When there were 2 minutes left, a familiar figure appeared in her sight. Yuan Ran was so focused that he almost cried with joy. The injuries on Kitano's face are still clearly visible, and he walks with a limp, but he is really here. Finally, I didn't miss the college entrance examination. Yuan Ran forgot that she had sneaked in, and was unexpectedly discovered and chased after her. This classmate, what are you doing? Yuan Ran was frightened, turned around and ran away, but without paying attention to the direction, he turned around and hit the bead with his left hand. In an instant, her face turned pale. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 350. Chapter 350 Yuan Ran, you are so stupid. Yuan Ran's left hand was severely injured again. When MRSU learned the reason, she slapped her in the face. Yuan Ran, you are getting more and more outrageous. It seems that you haven't given up yet. Do you want me to destroy him with my own hands before you learn your lesson? No, mother, please. Yuan Ran prayed heavily, bent her legs and knelt down. After receiving the bad news, Ye Wei rushed to the hospital to visit. When he saw Yuan Ran kneeling on the ground begging MRSU, her heart was in her throat. MRSU raised her hand again. Yuan Ran had already resigned herself to her fate and closed her eyes. Ye Wei instantly rushed over to stop MRSU. Auntie, I'm sorry, but please calm down. Ye Wei naturally would not quarrel with the elders. She tried to persuade her a little. When MRSU's raised hand froze in mid-air, she saw the tears flowing from her daughter's eyes as she closed them. That slap did not fall after all. MRSU hates that iron cannot become steel. You deserve to have your hand cut off. If you don't want to heal it, it will be disabled forever. MRSU hugged the cat and left angrily. Assistant Sun chatted quickly with the doctor from behind, and the doctor nodded repeatedly. After MRSU left, Ye Wei hurriedly stretched out her hand to help Yuan Ran. She actually realized now that Yuan Ran's hand was broken. It is not an ordinary fracture, it is even more serious. Yuan Ran, why didn't you tell me earlier? And you, are you going to watch B's college entrance examination today? Why do you make yourself like this? It makes people feel bad to see you. I'm sorry, I kept hiding this from you. Ye Wei shook her head. Rather than hiding it, she felt more distressed by Yuan Ran's injury. You hurt your hand the last time you were beaten for Kitano, right? Facing Yes' only question, Yuan Ran had nothing to hide, so she nodded and admitted, yes. This time, the injury was aggravated because I went to the examination room to see if Kitano had taken the college entrance examination. Yuan Ran simply told the truth. After hearing these words, Ye Wei clenched his fists. Don't worry, Yuan Ran. I will go find him after B's exam is over. I want to explain to him clearly the suffering you have suffered for him. You two like each other and can't just separate like this. No, Yuan Ran grabbed Ye Wei's wrist with his right hand and shook his head repeatedly. Promise me never to tell Bei Ye about this matter. Why, Ye Wei really didn't understand the logic. If my hand doesn't heal, he will blame himself for it, and maybe he will go to those people for revenge. You know Kitano's character, no one can stop him when he wants to do something, but now, he just alone. No matter how powerful one person is, there is no power in numbers. Do you understand what I mean? Ye Wei was speechless, because she understood. Bei Ye is Zhang Yang, he is young and frivolous, but he has not grown up yet. Yuan Ran saw her silence, but she forced a smile and said, promise me never to tell Bei Ye about this. Ye Wei sighed deeply, and ran, you are so stupid. Ye Wei couldn't believe what she would do if she stood in this position. She is very selfish. Once she holds on, she is never willing to let go. After Ye Wei left, Yuan Ran went to find her attending doctor. She asked the doctor about her situation straight to the point, and the doctor had a bad face. Miss Yu, if you cooperate with our treatment, you will still have a chance to recover in the future. Okay, Miss Yu, let me tell you straight, your hand is too badly injured and you will never be able to bear weight again in this life. End of this chapter.